Hey guys, this is Blitz from south of Serdio here to give you my first impressions for the next Pokemon games in Nintendo's storied series, Pokemon Black version and Pokemon White version. Now, I picked up the White version because I don't particularly like the Legendary on the Black version's cover. And I've been playing it off and on for the past 3 or 4 days whenever my DS decides to cooperate with me. And from what I've played, I'm only about 3 badges in. It's got the potential to be the best games in the entire series. What they've basically done is they've taken the formula that's worked so well since like 1996, and they've taken everything that's ever been good about it and condensed that into a single game, and then released that for us to play. And it shows. They've completely retooled the visual stylings. This is the first time that the series has ever really taken advantage of the hardware it's presented on. It uses the 3D functions on the Nintendo DS very effectively, with some very nice panning and sweeping camera angles and some pretty interesting zoom functions. The battles have an entirely different layout. They still function identically, but they now look somewhat more similar to, if you've ever played Golden Sun, how the battle camera will change. It just kind of moves around on its own to focus on the action more. It's no longer a still image fighting a still image. They've also completely animated every single Pokemon so that they have constant animation. It doesn't just play once when you see them. They are constantly animating at all times, and it actually really adds to the effect. The actual graphics themselves are very pleasing to look at. They are a little bit blocky at times. In particular, I think the main character's standing sprite, is really silly. He sets his arms out at like this 45-degree angle, and it looks really uncomfortable, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone stand like that in my life. The towns are all, the ones I've been to at least, all have a very unique feel, and they've really pushed the limit on how we view cities in Pokemon games. There is a city in this game that makes Saffron City from Red and Blue look like a small mountain village in comparison. The gameplay itself is fundamentally identical and yet different than the other 4 games before. And what I mean by that is you're still out in the wild. You go to tall grass, you find a Pokemon, you beat the Pokemon to half death, you throw a ball at the Pokemon, you make it your little minion. That hasn't changed. But there are now a lot more options. They've introduced 2 new battle types, neither of which I've actually seen, the triple battle and the rotation battle, and those are both variants on the same thing, which is triple battles. And I guess the game introduces those towards the end game, so I can't really comment on those yet. I just know they exist. The other way they've actually switched up the gameplay, and this is kind of interesting. They've made a completely new roster of currently available 153 new Pokemon, and what they've done is, until you beat the game, those 153 are the only ones you can use. And what that forces you to do is completely rethink how you play the game. You're not allowed to use your old favorites anymore. You're not allowed to use the same tricks you've always done. You have to completely find new ones, and you have to get used to these new creatures. You have to learn what they can do, what they can learn, what their stats are, what they're good at. And it actually really adds a lot. I haven't felt this much strategic depth, and I've never been this, I've never had to think as much in one of these games as I have now, and it's a really welcome change. The games also have what appears to be, again, only 3 badges in, but the game appears to have a very good plot, certainly a far cry from the previous 4 games. The villains actually have motives beyond, wahaha, I am the bad guy, fear me. I won't spoil any of that, but they actually feel like complex characters, even if they do just eventually condescend back down into, at least the grunts condescend back down into slavering douchebags. The music, as it has been for the past couple of games, is actually pretty fantastic. If you're insane enough to have gone to our forums, you will notice that I've posted a link to one of my favorite battle themes from the game. It is the Team Plasma Grunt fight music. I would recommend you give it a check if you enjoy video game music. What else is there to say? There are some negatives to all this. I'm speaking volumes about how good it is, but there are some downsides. The interface, while there are some workarounds to this, is still as infamously clunky and slow as it's always been. So you're still going to be sitting there, you're going to sift through menus, and it's going to take forever just to use a single item. And, I mean, Heart Gold and Soul Silver really fixed this problem in many ways by just having your menu be on the touchscreen. You just, bam, I'm in my bag now. But they took that away, and instead what they've put on the touchscreen is this thing called the C gear, which is cool in concept. It basically, what it lets you do is it lets you access any one of the wireless communication functions just by tapping the touchscreen. That's really cool, because it means if I'm with a group of people and I want to trade, I don't have to trudge all the way back to the Pokemon Center. I can just push a button on my touchscreen, and boom, I'm trading. Or boom, I'm battling. But I don't often play these games in groups. I have friends who own them, but the majority of my playtime with these games is by myself. And wireless communications take a lot of battery life. So, for the most of the time, I'm just sitting there with this function off, and I've got this great big blank slate on the bottom screen that's not being used for anything. And I would have liked for them to have it so if your C gear was off, it just displayed the menu icons like it did in the previous games. It would have really sped up the process. What they have given you as a sort of workaround of this problem is you can now hotkey multiple items to the Y button, which is, you used to be able to hotkey an item to the Y button. Most people would put the bike on this because that's just what you use the most. But now what happens is you can assign multiple items and even actual, like, bags in your inventory, and when you push the Y button, it will bring up a menu. So I have it set so that if I push the Y button at the very top of the list, I have the medicine pocket, because I'm OCD and I like to keep all of my Pokemon at full health no matter what. And that's really convenient, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still slow. Like, it's faster than going through my bag, yeah, but marginally. I just cut out one menu. Realistically, I would rather have the wireless functions in my menu and my healing items or, like, my bag on the bottom screen. So if I could just, like, manage my inventory without even pausing the game, just, like, flick around on the touchscreen, like, drag stuff around, it's like, oh, I want to use that item. I just click on that item, and then I get to choose who I use it on. Or, oh, I want to throw this away, so I could just, like, drag it to a trash can icon or something. They missed an opportunity, I think, to make to make really good use of the bottom screen. I don't necessarily begrudge them for what they gave us, but I am left wanting more from it. If that makes any sense. I could just sound like a total slavering idiot right now. There's also this feeling with these games that it's almost like a placeholder. And this isn't a bad thing by any means, but it is a little bit strange. It feels like these games are kind of like a stepping stone to what Game Freak really wants to take this series. And I know that they've already said that they're developing a Pokemon game for the Nintendo 3DS, which actually worries me because, I mean, Black and White came out this year and everywhere in the world except Japan. And even in Japan, it came out in September of 2010. But they're already developing a truly, like, three-dimensional Pokemon game for the 3DS. And this kind of feels like it's like a dog biscuit that's thrown to the dogs, to basically hold us off until they can finish development on this big one. And the games are excellent, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just it feels strange almost. And I can't really put my finger on exactly how. I think it's something that you really have to think about when you're playing the games. But yeah, all in all, though, I think that these are they certainly are candidates for the best games in the series. I think the only things that could possibly give them a run for their money in terms of just content and how much fun I've had with them are Heart Gold and Soul Silver on the Nintendo DS as well. And that's only because I've been playing those for longer, so I've got these big, thick lenses of nostalgia to talk through. But when I play more of Black and White, I would not be at all surprised if they did become my favorite games in this series. And it is completely reasonable for me to suggest that you go out and purchase these at full retail right now. Like, if you have a DS, if you've ever liked the series before, if you liked the series before and you lost interest with the newer stuff, give these ones a shot. I'm pretty sure you'll like them. If you are a fan of the series and you don't already own them, what the hell is wrong with you? Go buy them now. If you've never played the series, this is actually a really good jumping on point because it's completely new. You don't have to know the previous, like 498 that they've added before, because they aren't in this game until you beat it. If you have a DS and you want an RPG, buy this. It's quite a bit better than most of the other ones on there. It will certainly last you longer. If my experience with the previous games in this series is any indication, you will get something like 200 plus hours out of these games. And for $35, that is an incredibly good deal. And it would be very difficult to argue against me on that. And no, that's not an invitation. Stop right now. But yeah, those are my first impressions on Pokemon Black and White. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later.